Hello, my precious changelings. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to talk to you about Phasmophobia. And what we're going to do today is do a tier list. Yes, that's right. We're going to be ranking all of the different kinds of ghosts. The way we're going to be ranking them is by putting them in the most fun to the least fun. It's going to be hard to do that because there are a little bit of caveats there. It kind of depends on if you're in solo play or in multiplayer, or if you're on a small map or a big map, but we're going to try to go over that as we talk about them, and we're going to try to do it fast. All right, let's start off with the first one. It's going to be the Banshee. The Banshee is a prime example of what I'm talking about because the Banshee, when playing solo, kind of just meh, but in multiplayer it's really fun because if you can figure out who's the person that the Banshee is going after, then everyone else can have so much fun playing against the ghost because it literally can't hurt them as long as the target is still in the house. So you can have a lot of fun messing around with a Banshee and having a good time. Because of that, in solo play, I would probably put it in a C tier just because, you know, if you're doing a no evidence run or something like that, it can be a little bit annoying. But when you're playing in multiplayer, it's super fun. So I'm going to say that puts it in a solid B. Alright, this one's a fan favorite, the Demon. Everyone worries about a demon, and for good reason. A demon can start a hunt whenever it wants. For being an interesting ghost, it's up here, but I'm hesitant to put it in the S tier simply because it will kill you. It can be annoying and less fun when you walk into a house and say go into a place like a bathroom or something like that, and the demon decides to start a hunt before you've even really had the opportunity to narrow it out, and there you go, you just lost your run because demon. So I'm gonna put it in A because just the threat, having the demon out there as a threat makes the game more fun. Dio, our good buddy Dio. Dio is a really fun ghost. I gotta put it up in S tier. Every time I get a Dio gen, I'm super excited. I am happy, I'm ecstatic. I'm head over heels in joy. Dio gens, mwah, beautiful. First of all, similar to a demon, before you've ruled it out, a Dio gen will make your skin crawl when a hunt starts because you'll hear that of its feet stomping all the way up to you, and you have to go, is it a Fae? Then, on the flip side of things, as soon as you do figure out it's a Dio, oh my gosh, it's hilarious. You just backpedal away from it. You can throw things at it, you can laugh at it, you can have so much fun making fun of poor little Diogen. Alright, next up we have a Goryo. Goryos, I don't really care for. First of all, when you're doing like a no evidence run or something like that in single player, Goryos are just lame because the only thing you have to go off of is that they kind of don't roam around a whole lot, which isn't a very good ability to have to figure them out. But even when you do have evidence on, their thing is you can only see them on dots through a camera. You can't see it in person. So that requires you to like sit with a camera in front of the dots and just wait and wait and hope it not only does the dots, but that you catch it on camera at the same time as not seeing it in person. Not that big of a deal. Don't care for it a whole lot. It's not absolutely maddening, but it's pretty close to it. Alright, a Hantu. Hantus are pretty cool. I like them because it's one of the ghosts that has variable speeds, and it makes sense. Wherever it's super cold, it's fast. Wherever it's warm, it's slow. If it does a hunt before you turn the breaker on, it's going to be bolting around. It's going to be Usain Ghost. But if you've had the breaker on for a while, you can have a lot of fun with the Hantu, just running away from it. It'll have a hard time catching up to you. As long as you don't accidentally walk back into the cold rooms that it's been in before the hunt, you'll have a pretty good time fighting the Hantu. For that reason, I think it's up there with the demon and how much fun it can be. Gens aren't the most interesting either. They do have a couple of things going for them. One, they have an ability that is a variable movement speed thing, so if you're trying to figure out what kind of ghost it is and you have the breaker on and the Djinn sees you from far away, boom, it's moving fast to you, you know it's a Djinn. And everyone who knows anything about the ghosts, as soon as that breaker gets turned off, it's like the fucking neuron firing immediately. You hear the breaker noise. Ah, it's not a Djinn. You can write that off. So the Djinn can be fun to play against because you can work on the movement speed and figuring that part out, but it can also be annoying if you've been in a situation where you're down to like a 50-50 and you don't know what the ghost is, and it happens to be a non-Djinn that just hasn't hit the breaker. Kind of annoying. For that reason, I think it fits a same spot as the Banshee, so I'm going to put you up there. All right, the Mare. Mare, I kind of have a hate-hate relationship with. I don't like the Mare. The only thing that's like a redeeming part of the Mare's kit is if you turn a light on, it has a chance to immediately turn it off, and then you know, boom, that's a Mare. Which has happened a lot, so it's not like the most annoying thing, but the fact that the Mare exists means that in every single investigation, until I've scratched that off, I have to worry about lights fucking with the whole thing, so it's a little bit annoying. But other than that, it's not like the worst out there, so I think it should go along with the Goryo there. Moroys, not too bad. I have a decent amount of fun playing with them, and they're another one of those ones that are a variable speed ghost. So the way it works is your average sanity gets lower, it gets faster. But the closer you get down to 0, the closer it gets to like double speed. On top of that, it has the spirit box cursing thing, which I think is a really cool ability. Cursing the player that talked to it on the spirit box and making them constantly lose sanity is such a cool mechanic, and it makes it so much fun in single player when you talk to it and then go back out to the van, grab some stuff, come in, and you're getting hunted earlier than you thought. And you're thinking to yourself, is it faster this time than it was last time? It's just such a good way of messing with you. It messes with your understanding of how much sanity you should have lost at this point, and it makes you second guess if you're thinking, oh man, is this something going a little bit faster than last time, or did I just misremember how fast it was going the first time because I wasn't paying attention? Pretty cool. I like that. I think that goes up there with the Hantu Demon. Mylings, they're okay. As far as ghosts that are interesting, it has a very unique ability where you basically cannot hear its footsteps until your flashlight starts flickering. You might not even know a hunt is going on if you didn't hear the front door close or something like that, and then the next thing you know, your flashlight's flickering, it's in your face, and you're dead. It can be a little annoying to pin it down, especially on the bigger maps, but for the most part, as soon as you get that first hunt and you recognize that the footsteps are way quieter than they should be, it's a dead giveaway that it's a Myling. Because it can be annoying, but it isn't quite that bad, I'm going to put it up in B tier with the Banshee and Jin. The Obake is pretty frustrating. I think no matter what kind of thing you're doing, solo, multiplayer, low evidence, or regular runs, Obakes are just annoying. Their big thing is that they erase fingerprint evidence. That's just annoying. They've got a special handprint. You're gonna have a little finger sticking out, and you'll count it, and it'll have 6 of them. But in a zero evidence run, they did make it so that the Obake is now the Shapeshifter ghost, which, you know, I'm kind of a fan of Shapeshifter ghosts for some reason. But you watch the Obake during a hunt, you can see the ghost model change from the one that it is, and it'll flicker for just a moment between that and one of the other ghost models. That does mean that in order to know for sure that it's an Obake and you didn't get the 6-finger handprint, you're going to have to burn through smudge sticks on multiple hunts and hope that you catch that flicker at least the one time during the hunt it happens. But is it as annoying as the Goryo or Mare? I think since the change, not as much, but I'm going to put it in C tier just because I don't think it's as cool as anything in the B tier. I think almost everybody likes a good Oni. Why? Because they're active. They do shit. They don't leave you sitting around waiting and going, oh man, where's this ghost? What is it doing? No, these bitches are throwing stuff. They're popping in your face. They're singing you songs. And on top of that, if you ever hear an airball, another one of those neuron firing moments happens for everyone that's played the game for more than like 50 hours, and you go, oh, it's not an Oni! And you mark it off because it can't do an airball event. I think you have to put it in A tier. It's just an enjoyable experience. Now that they've also changed it, that the Oni flickers less during a hunt, it's also easier to know that it is an Oni when you're doing low evidence runs or something like that. So it's not even annoying to deal with anymore. It's fun, it's exciting. I just don't think it's quite as fun as a Deogen. So you're gonna sit in A there, Oni. Onryo. Onryos are a little interesting. It can be a little annoying if you're in a situation where you're trying to decide between a couple different ghosts on nightmare mode or a low evidence thing, and you put down the candles and you put down your crucifixes to see if it takes a bite out of the crucifix before blowing the candle out, and you just so happen to have a non-Onryo that is more concerned with blowing out candles than it is with starting a hunt, and you go, oh, it's an Onryo because it hasn't started a hunt yet while it's blowing out these candles. Haha, and then you get fucked over. But at the same time, I like the idea of the threat of an Onryo because it always makes you second guess having a candle on. I think it ultimately ends up being more annoying than it is fun because you have to work around it, and the way to definitively tell it's an Onryo requires a bit of random, because if it's a non-Onryo, there's a lot of easy ways to get false positives on that. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the same tier as the Obake. Phantoms, I think, are pretty interesting, just because whenever you take a picture of it and it turns invisible, it's a dead giveaway that it's a phantom, so that's cool. And on top of that, the recent change where they made it so that it is more invisible during the hunt, which means that when you're seeing the ghost flicker, a regular ghost will have this kind of tempo for it, but a phantom will have like long periods of being invisible, just the opposite of the Oni. Because of that, it's not annoying to deal with, but at the same time, it doesn't have a mechanic that's like fun. It's not like a really cool or interesting one. It's just ka-chik. Oh, it's a phantom. Wrap it up, boys, we're done. For that reason, I'm gonna put it in B tier because it's not as fun as any of these, and it doesn't affect the meta like those ones do, but at the same time, it's not annoying. It's just kind of there. Poltergeist. Now, Poltergeist is one that you can absolutely have fun with. I think everyone knows that once you have a Poltergeist, you should take a little bit of time, get the ghost room set up with as many items as you can. You just pile all the items on the floor, dump them in there, and then when the Poltergeist starts a hunt, or if it just happens to use its ability, you see an explosion of items go everywhere. It's just fun to see. And it's another one of those that has a dead giveaway whenever you're getting the hunt and you're sitting in your closet just listening to the footsteps or something. You could just hear all of the plates, the forks, picture frames and stuff getting tossed around. As soon as you walk out of your closet at the end of the hunt and flick on a light, you could see a tornado went through the house. It's pretty fun, has a dead giveaway. For that reason, I'm gonna put it up in A. It's really close to S. Like, I almost want to put it into S tier just because the Poltergeist is so iconic, not only as a ghost, but as a ghost in Phasmophobia, and it's just fun to deal with. You know what? Let's leave it in S. Poltergeist, you're pretty fun. Nope, I thought of a reason why it shouldn't be an S, and that is when you're playing on any map that doesn't have things to throw around. You ever have a Poltergeist on high school? You ever have a Poltergeist in prison? A Poltergeist in the attic on Bleasdale? Not a fun experience, because there's no way to know it's a Poltergeist unless you get it to throw a bunch of items. And those rooms and those maps are so humongous that you can't really pin it down to a certain area. And you're going to put your big pile down and never actually get it to do its ability. So for that reason, I have to leave it out of S. Ooh, a Raiju. It's pretty fun. It is terrifying. It has definitely killed me on multiple occasions, but I can't be too mad at it because that's its thing. It will siphon electricity from stuff and get extreme power, overwhelming power, and chase you down and kill you. So Raijus are pretty fun already because of that. And then on low evidence runs and things like that, it's a little bit easier to figure them out. You just make a Olympic track for them to jog down. You just put like your UV light down, you put down a dot, you put down a sound sensor, and then just lead it through it. And if it's booking it, you know it's a Raiju. I think because of how the Raiju is, how you can have fun setting up the electronics track to make sure it is that, it should go at least into A. Raiju is really fun just to mess with. Now, ooh, the Revenant. Revenants are once again super scary. And because of that, you will have people that as soon as you've marked it as a Revenant, you don't have a sigh of relief. You're not, you know, oh, at least we know what it is now, so we're safe. No, you don't feel safe. Anytime there's a Revenant and it's like, well, we need to get a ghost photo, I don't know if I want to risk holding onto a camera when there's a revenant on the loose, you know? And especially if you're playing on a big map or something like that, a hunt can start, and if you don't know the hunt started and say you're down a hallway in the prison, you can just hear that like linebacker rushing down the hallways to knock on your door, and it will choke you. So because of that, I think the Revenant also needs to go in A, just because it's so fun. And, you know, whenever you're playing in a low evidence run or something like that, you can easily know it is a Revenant on that first hunt if you hear those slow, plodding steps, and then you can poke your head out with a smudge stick in hand and see if it charges towards you. Has a dead giveaway, is super spooky. It's pretty much everything you want from a ghost, so I'll put that in A tier. I don't know if we should even go over this, but Shade's going in E tier. Why? Of all the ghosts, it has one of the most lamest abilities, which is it won't start a hunt if you're in the same room as it. It also doesn't start hunts until you're under 35%. So the only thing that gives away that a Shade is inactivity. It not doing things. It doesn't do stuff when you're around it, which is so annoying. And then on the flip side of things, if you have a ghost that's not doing a whole lot, you just instantly start thinking in the back of your head, oh my gosh, it's a Shade. It's a Shade. Oh my gosh, it's a Shade. And if you're doing a low evidence run and you've had low activity, maybe not even getting hunted after a while, it's easy to just tick that Shade box and then hit the van, only to find out it was something else and you just got unlucky with the low activity. Because of that, I hate the Shade. Shade should just be in the bottom tier. Spirit, the basic bitch of all the ghosts. The one that has basically no advantage, and its only disadvantage is once you've smudged it, it can't start a hunt for 3 minutes. You could be sitting at 0 sanity in a house, and a ghost could just happen to not start a hunt for a couple minutes, even though it could. And because of that, you could really mess yourself up. And the ability of not starting a hunt after a certain amount of time does mean that if you're trying to be good, you need to keep track of time. So it almost requires you to have like a stream set up, like a recording time, or just a little stopwatch or something like that. But because of that RNG and that little bit of annoyance, I gotta put it in C. Never like super fun to have a spirit, and sometimes it can be pretty annoying to have a spirit. So I think C is a good place for it. All right, Thay. They are the earliest hunter outside of the demon's ability, where they can start a hunt at 75% average sanity. And they're fastest at the start of the investigation. And the longer that you spend time around the Thay, the slower it will get. I think Diogen and Thay, because they work together so well, I gotta put the Thay up there. It is one of the scarier ghosts. If you are a knowledgeable player and you know how to work around the Thay, then it can be really fun, because by the end of the investigation, it is so slow. Figuring out that it is one and then bullying it by staying in the area allows you to get a lot done with the Thay. I think because of that, its occupation in the meta and the mechanics of it being super fast at the start and then slowing down create one of the most fantastic ghosts in the game. Ah, the Mimic, the classic bamboozler, the one that will bamboozle even the greatest, because it just does such a good job of deceiving you. The Mimic can turn into any of the other ghosts and adopt any of its abilities. It doesn't take on their evidences, but it does have a dead giveaway, which is its fake orbs. Because of that, it's never like super frustrating to have a Mimic. You should always be able to get at least that one piece of evidence and figure it out. But because of those mechanics of being a shapeshifter, it can do things like start a real early hunt. It could be one of the more scary ghosts like the demon or the Thay, or even maybe a Raiju or one of these other ones that can start a hunt real early, and then flip its switch and go back to being something else that's a little bit lower down. Or it can be a really slow ghost at first, and you can build up your confidence before you got all the evidence out, and then it switches to one that's really fast, and then it gets you. The Mimic is just fantastic. Of all the ghosts, it's clearly one of my favorites because it's a shapeshifter, way more than the Obake. But it's because of its place in the meta, you have to worry about a Mimic. I think the Mimic is fantastic. You always have to worry about the ghost being a Mimic and just completely messing with your mind. Super fun. The twins, I think, is another really fun one. The twins do have a dead giveaway. The main twin is slightly slower than normal, and the decoy twin is slightly faster than normal. Because of that 50-50 on it being fast or slow, you really have to pay extra attention and do multiple hunts to confirm that you think it is the twins. And in no evidence runs, again, it can be a dead giveaway if you notice it, but it's not super frustrating like some of these down here. But the twins are fun. I don't think they're S tier fun, but they're definitely up in the A tier because when the twins get to do their thing, it can be so much fun. The Wraith is pretty interesting as well. They did make a recent change to it that makes it a little bit harder to know that it's a Wraith. Previously, all ghosts when they stepped in the salt would leave the footprint in the salt. The only difference with the Wraith is that it wouldn't leave the glowing feet print behind. Now, with the Wraith, it doesn't even step in the salt. Because of that, it can be a little annoying, but the other thing the Wraith can do is teleport to a player's location and leave an EMF level 2. You may also be on like the larger maps and it feels like the ghost is in every room you're in. It's probably a Wraith. It's teleporting to your location and then doing stuff. Because of that, the Wraith is never like entirely hard to figure out. Am I ever super excited for one? Not really. Sometimes it can be annoying when it like teleports to your location and starts a hunt, especially if everyone is low on sanity and it's more likely to be hunting at that time. You could be like, all right, I'm in this relatively safe spot, teleports to you, and then a half second later starts a hunt and there's basically nothing you can do. Because of that, it can be annoying. But because it has so many giveaways of what it is, I'm going to put it in B tier. The Yokai, the dumbest ghost. This one has some interesting stuff to it, and it can be pretty fun. If you don't know, the Yokai has an ability that when you are using your microphone near it, it can start a hunt when the average sanity is under 80%. It can be one of the earliest hunts, but the reason why it's not such a big deal is it is a stupid ghost. All the other ghosts have a pretty large range where they can pick up on voices and electronics that you're holding on to. The Yokai is different. It has an incredibly short range. If you're like on the other side of a wall from it and you yell at it and it seems to ignore you, it's a Yokai. And especially on any of the maps that have glass doors or some kind of see-through thing, you can just like leave your flashlight on, stand on the other side of the door, and see if it comes towards you or not. So Yokai has its own dead giveaways. It has an interesting mechanic that can spook you pretty hard, but because of the Yokai's, drawbacks, it can be pretty fun to mess around with. I want to put it in A, but I think I'm just going to put it in B because it doesn't really have anything that's like super fun. It can just be less annoying than other ones. Alright, and the last ghost, alphabetically, is the Uri. I don't really like a Uri. I think that, and I don't know if it's Uri or Uri, I flip between them, so I apologize. Its only thing that really makes it stand out is if you smudge it, it has to stay in its ghost room for a minute. And it's kind of along the same lines as the Onryo and a couple of the other ones I mentioned in that it's RNG. You could smudge any of the other ghosts and they could also just sit in their ghost room for a minute. And you only get 4 smudge sticks. So you have a limited resource in figuring out if it's a Uri. And that means that any of the smudge sticks you use in figuring out that it's one isn't a smudge stick you can use to save yourself during the hunt. So it is, I think, pretty lame to have to deal with a Uri. And then on top of that, if you're doing a 0 evidence run and you're trying to figure out that it's a Uri, it doesn't have a good ability for figuring it out. It doesn't have a dead giveaway during a hunt. You just basically have to rule out every other ghost and then get left with a Uri. So because of that, I'm going to put it in E tier as well. Alright, now that I've placed them in these tiers, let's order them within it. Do I think the Shade is more fun than the Uri? No. At least the Uri does things. The Shade is literally just, I don't do stuff. I would rather have a ghost that's active, but I can't figure out what it is, than a ghost that just literally does nothing. Between the Mare and the Goryo, though, that's tough. I hate dealing with either one of them, but at least the Goryo, when you have evidence on, you can get something from it. Even with one piece of evidence, you know it's going to be dots if it's Goryo, and there is a tried and true method for figuring out if it is one. It can be annoying in no evidence, but in that very specific situation, these are basically tied. So the only thing putting Goryo in front of Mare is that any amount of evidence makes it easier to tell it's a Goryo than a Mare. I think of these, Onryo is my favorite, just because you can do the candle test and you can get really fun hunts that start on sunny meadows because of the candles in the cathedral. And things like that. You know, there is an interesting aspect to the Onryo. With the Obake, its ability is that it gets rid of evidence, which is just annoying, and the Spirit, its giveaway is an RNG based mechanic, so that's also just kind of annoying. So I think this is pretty good. I'll stick with Obake because I do get like I get a little pump of that dopamine whenever I see the 6-finger handprint. It just makes me excited. So I'll leave that in this order. There's nothing that the Spirit has that makes me as excited as seeing that 6-finger handprint, but not nearly as excited as doing an Onryo test and definitively proving that it is an Onryo or not. All right, which of the B tier do I like the most? Honestly, Banshee. The only reason Banshee isn't an A or S is because in solo play with no evidence, there's really no way to find out that it's a Banshee. But outside of that situation, when you have, you know, any kind of multiplayer, just a 2-person game, there's so much fun to be had with a Banshee. So I'll put a Banshee there. The Myling will keep you on your toes because it will sneak up on you during a hunt if you don't know that it's hunting. And it is somewhat of a dead giveaway that a Myling is a Myling. So I think the Jinn would go next because you can rule it out so quickly, and you can also get that quick movement speed to chase you down. It's not too bad. The Phantom should probably go next because any situation in which you get a picture of it, you can definitely know it's a Phantom. And during hunts, it's easy to just look at it and go, ah, yeah, that's a Phantom. I think then Wraith, because the teleporting can be interesting. It can make for some fun situations. And then the Yokai just being stupid is kind of interesting, but not as interesting as any of these, I think. A tier is this is gonna be hard. I really want to leave Demon at the top of A tier just because of, like I said, it affects the meta. Anytime you walk into a house, if you haven't ruled out Demon, you gotta worry about a Demon being there. Next most fun is probably the Oni. Onis are just cool. They do stuff. They're active. It has a giveaway. Revenants are super scary. Again, their place in the meta makes it so that you have to worry about being hunted down by a Revenant, especially on larger maps, and they're terrifying even once you know it's a Revenant. The Hantu, again, when it is slow, it's fun to bully, but it can also be scary if like the breaker gets turned off. That can be pretty fun. The Moroi, starting out slower, or normal speed, and then getting faster is pretty fun. And the Raiju, yeah, these three kind of are in the same territory where they have mechanics where in one situation they're terrifying, in other situations they aren't. I think because of that, the Hantu is the most fun out of all of these. The Moroi, probably next because of the cursing and the increasing in speed. And then the Raiju, just because the Raiju can just start a hunt pretty quick and then pop on you. Then between the Poltergeist and the Twins, I think it's more fun than the Twins. The Twins can also be a little bit annoying if they don't do specific twinteractions, or if, say, one twin is getting that 50-50 more often than the other, and it's hard to tell that it is the twins. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with how this is. Deogen is absolutely the most fun. I don't think there's another ghost that is as fun as the Deogen because it is terrifying when a Deogen shows up and you don't know it's a Deogen, and you have to do that coin flip of, is this a Deogen and I need to run away from my hiding spot, or is it a Thay and I need to stay safe in it? The Deogen is just hilarious. Once you find out it's a Deogen and you can just have everyone circle around it, bully the heck out of them, throw things at them, take pictures of it casually. Great time. Always fun with the Deogen. The Thay and the Mimic. I feel like because the Thay plays so well with the Deogen, in the meta of the game, I think you have to put it second. Because even though it can absolutely crush you, it can start a hunt and then just bolt down the hallway and murder you really fast, I think ultimately it ends up being fun. Once you know it's a Thay, and you spend that time in the house around it and you lower its speed, you can then get it into bully territory, make it do the things that you want to do, get easier pictures and stuff like that. And it is way more active at the start, and having active ghosts is just way more fun than inactive ghosts. And the Thay is usually pretty active, so I think because of that it gets to stay up here. Which leaves the Mimic, and I already said the Mimic is really fun, and the fact that it can be any of the ghosts, its place in the meta is interesting, its place on an individual investigation is interesting. Everything about the Mimic is just fun. I just don't think it's as fun as these two at the end of the day. So there you go. That is my Phasmophobia ghost tier list, where I ranked all of them in order of how much fun I think they are to play with. Let me know what you think. Put your comments down below if you agree or disagree with anything that I said. Make sure to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more in the future. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of those around you. Bye-bye.